Welcome to today's video on how to use the Vudu home flash device. Fortunately, we've managed to acquire ourselves a Fiesta ST behind me, although the process that I'm going to show you today works on all of the platforms that we offer this for. I'm going to show you what's in the box. We've got the tuning tool in this box here. Inside there you're going to have a card which will have the QR code on the back for getting straight to the instructions, the software request form, and obviously a link to this video. So I'm going to pop that to one side. This comes separately now, but it's a nice touch that we send out. It's the Vudu branding pack, which includes door stickers. It's really difficult to pick which colour to put in there based on everybody's colour of car. So if you could make a note in the order to be able to tell us what colour car you've got or what colour stickers you want, we can sort that. There's an enamel badge in there, and there's usually an air freshener inside it as well. Inside your tuning toolbox you're going to have your screen, which is here. This contains all the protocols to be able to talk to multiple makes and models. You've got your OBD connector cable, and this is the USB cable to connect it to the computer. We're going to go upstairs now and show you the first part of the process, which is plugging the computer and the tuning tool together. That will allow it to update and make sure that every single protocol that has been released by us is updated onto the tool, ready to flash your car. Okay, so before we even attempt to read the vehicle, we're going to want to take the tuning tool and the USB connector and connect it into the computer. Now there's a link in the video, and there's also a link on the instructions for the iFlash USR software that you need to download. You must download this first and do this process. So at this point we're going to need to take the USB to laptop connector, plug that into the tuning tool, into your laptop, and then open the iFlash user software, which is in the instructions. There's also a link in the video where you download this particular piece of software. From here I'm going to show you the process, what you need to do once it's on the screen. You can see that it's identifying the device. The device will load up and then say Vudu and give you its serial number and everything. It's really important at this point that you allow it to do its updates. If you don't allow the tool to update and it's been sat on our shelf for a number of weeks, we will have been updating protocols and things for certain cars, and it'll unlikely to read correctly. Once you've let it do the downloading point and it's updated all the protocols, then we'll take the tool to the vehicle, plug it into the OBD port and take the fresh read. Okay, so now we're at a point where we're going to take a read from the car's OBD port. Now again, this is a Fiesta ST, but it doesn't matter if you've got a Polo, Golf, whatever the tool has been sold for, it will work through the OBD port. So a couple of key notes here is that we have to have a full battery. If the battery drops below a certain voltage, the tool will fail to read. So either do this when you've used the car for a long period of time, or ideally, if you can, you want to be putting a trickle charger on the car whilst you're communicating with the ECU. You don't want the car running, you just want the ignition on to bring the ECU to life so that it can communicate with it. If you try doing it with the car running, it won't work. So again, at this point during the reading process, if for example you disturb the tool and it stops reading, it's not the end of the world. However, if that happens during the writing process, that's a big problem. So we'll touch on that when we move further down and we actually write the VUDU map to this car. So now we're at a point where the tool is loaded. You have the option of clicking tuning here, which is obviously where you go in to read the vehicle. This tool does carry an onboard diagnostics, so if you get a fault code and the engine light comes on, it will generally bring it up in here. Information about the tool, you're not going to really need to use that just yet. And the setup, so if you find yourself clicking on the screen and it's not doing what you need to do, you can actually go into setup and it will allow you to calibrate the screen, and it asks you to touch in the corners. You shouldn't need to do that because we do all this before we send them out, but if for whatever reason you do, it's in there. From here we're going to click tuning. As you can see, we've got lots and lots of different options on here. So you've got your make and model first. We're going to go down to Ford, select Ford, use the arrow to go forwards into the next menu. Then from here you're going to find this one's a Fiesta. So we're going to go into Fiesta ST. Once you're in here, you've got all your different options. Now, again, I must drive it home that sometimes, because the protocols are different within these options, you cannot hurt the ECU or do anything to the car by taking a read from the vehicle. All you're doing is copying the data from it. You're not erasing anything. So essentially, we're going to go into this one here, which is manual transmission 1.6 EcoBoost. That one should work. That one should work. Any of those three there should work because you've got the right one. You can also see here it's telling you that it's a Bosch MED 17.0.1, which is the ECU that's correct for this model. When we go into here, we're going to key on and confirm. So this is telling you make sure your ignition's on, engine not running. From here, it should connect to the ECU and try and read. First of all, it generally says, after saying communicating, it then tells you the stock file is missing from the tool because obviously we've not read the vehicle yet. So we're now going to start the read process by clicking yes. As you can see here on the cluster, we've got some flashing lights and you will get some noises, pinging and things. It's not something to worry about, just don't disturb the tool during this process. So at this point you'll have to excuse the beeping, but we've now got reading completed, switch ignition off and disconnect the power gate. So that's essentially, the tool has now taken what it needed, it's read it, and it's currently got the stock file inside the tool ready to download the data on the computer, which is the next step of the process. Now during this process, if you do get errors such as F002, that means that the protocol is not available. You're then going to need to take the tool, plug it into the computer and go onto the selection tree and click download data. That will download a data file which you can then email to our support team, who will then speak to the tool manufacturer. In that data, it gives the tool manufacturer what they need to be able to upload a test protocol, at which point you should be able to go through the process without any issue. It's very rare that that happens, but if it does, it's not the end of the world. It's just a couple of days for us to update the tool with the latest protocol for whatever vehicle that is. If for whatever reason it stops reading during that process and it gives you an error code, first of all check batteries, because battery is a big one on certain makes and models. If the battery drops below a certain voltage, it will stop reading. And that's obviously not as much of an issue as if it stops the writing process. Other than that, there's the option of doing different protocols. So if it doesn't read a Fiesta ST, for example, on the first protocol, go to the next one until you've tried them all. If you've tried all of the protocols and you're still getting the same issue, you'll need to download the data file as I've just described, and I will show you. And you'll need to send that to the support team, who will then be able to advise accordingly on what to do next. So we're now at the point where you've updated the tool, we've gone to the car, we've gone through the process of reading the car, how to use the tool, what to do if there's error codes. So I'm going to quickly touch on if there is an error code. You can see on my screen here where it says download log. That is what I'm talking about when we are discussing getting the log file across to us for us to either update a protocol if required, or to look at what the issue is and then come back to you to tell you. Again, laptop always on charge. When reading the car, when doing this bit, just keep your laptop on charge, because if it dies, it's going to be a problem. Not so much when you're reading the car, but again, when you're writing it, that is the fragile ornament that you really do not want to break. So if you were to download the log because you've got an F002 error code or something like that, you click start here, and that would then download it to your desktop. You save it and you send it to our support team at the files@email address. So moving on swiftly to where we are at, which is we want to download the data from our tool, which allows us to get our stock file to send to the tuning team to be able to put the map together and send it back ready to flash. So here we're going to click download data. This process can take a couple of minutes. Please be patient. It will download a .usr file. This is the file that you'll need to pair with your software request form, which again can be found in the link below, or can be found on the actual instructions for this tool. That's the most important part, is filling out that software request form. In the future, when we've got the portal all set up and running, you'll need to go onto the portal and select your options and go from there, and it'll talk you through the process. So as you can see here, we've now got a stock file downloaded. So stock file, I would recommend putting your registration in here. So for example, let's use the V008 ODO, which is the old Vudu car. And then we save that. Now at this point, this is where you need to go to your folder and send us an email with your software form attached. If you don't send your software form into us or it's filled out incorrectly, we can't process the file. It's as simple as that. So please make sure you're very, very careful on what you're putting on the software request form. Make sure everything's on there, all of your current hardware, if it's a stage 2 file, for example. Further down the line, this is the point where you would upload that file to the new portal when it's launched. The portal will prompt you to ask you all these questions, so you'll be less likely to make a mistake. If you do make a mistake, please contact us as soon as possible, because once we've processed a file, there will be a further charge if we need to revert back. So now that you've sent the stock file away to us, we'll have done things in the background on our side, which means that the file that you've just received back at this point, you're going to need to drop onto your desktop and then follow the process that I'm going to show you on the screen just now. So once you're into your Flash user software, you can see there's now an upload data. So it's very simple. At the first point you was using download data to get your stock file. Now you're using the upload data button. You've saved the tune file that we've sent back to you to your desktop. Nip into there, go to desktop. And in here we should have VUDU stage 1, there we are. Select the tuning file, confirm the upload and allow it to do its thing. This is now processing the file to put it onto your tool. At this point it's important to make you aware that you can't use the tool on multiple vehicles, it's locked to the VIN. The only time that the tool will become unlocked is if you flash your stock file back onto the car and then come into this area here and you can see it says erase data. So just to reiterate, flash the car back to stock, come into this piece of software, click erase data with your tool plugged in, that will remove everything off the tool and unlock it, at which point you can use it on a different car and just buy a file from us at a reduced rate, or you can sell the tool to somebody else, meaning they don't have to buy the tool and they get a reduced rate on the file. So at this point now you can again disconnect this from the laptop and take your OBD connector. Now that we've done this process, both of your files will be on the tool, so stock and stage 1 in this case. You no longer need to use your laptop. You can flash between the two files using only the tool at any time, anywhere with no internet connection. So we're now going to plug the tool into the OBD port. This process is exactly the same as the reading process, so ignition on but car not running. Follow the on-screen instructions, which I'm going to show you how to do now. A couple of things that I really have to labour the point on here is wherever possible, make sure you've got a trickle charger on the vehicle, and do not interrupt this process. If you switch the ignition off or you pull the cable out before it's finished or anything like that, you are going to render the ECU broken essentially. So at this point you won't be able to start the car, you'll get an immobiliser fault. So I can fix it with a recovery file, but that can take some time. So you're going to have, wherever the car is, it ain't going to move from. So just be really, really careful. Put the car out of the way somewhere. Don't park it in front of the garage that's got the other car in that you need to get out if anything should happen. Just think about what you're doing. So we're back to the point where we've got the options on the screen. We're going to select tuning. You can see it's now checking for a tuning file. So you don't have to go through the process selecting the car again, it already knows. You're going to continue with writing of the file. Which one do we want? Original or VUDU stage 1? We want VUDU stage 1. There we are. This is at the point now where it's about to wipe the data off the ECU and start installing your VUDU stage 1 or whatever the file is that we've sent to you. This is where it's important not to disturb this tool at all. If possible, I'm sitting in the car to stop the noises, but if possible you want to jump out the car, leave the door open and just put this on the seat and leave it. Keep an eye on it though until the process is finished. Okay, so as you can see by the screen here, the writing is completed successfully and it's telling me to switch the ignition off and disconnect the power gate. So at this point, follow the instructions. When you come to start the car, make sure that there's no engine light on. If there is, you can use this tool to do the diagnostics. Really important, if you do have an issue and it stops writing for whatever reason, before you try and start the car or anything, please plug this tool into the software that we've been showing you. Download the data log which we need, so the log of data that's going to tell us what's happened. Send us that. There's no point trying to contact us on the phone because we're unable to do technical support on the phone. It all has to be done through email. Without that data log we can't do anything. Hopefully you're not going to have that problem. It's very, very rare. I must have sold 1,000 of these tools and we've never had anybody that's actually destroyed their ECU with it. So it's very unlikely to happen, and if it does, we should be able to get you up and running anyway, so don't panic. So at this point now, that's you completely done. You can go out, test drive the car. Please allow for 3 second, third, fourth gear pulls, whichever is safe to do so. The ECU will need to adapt to whatever fuel it is and what are the changes that we've made on the vehicle. So again, if you do the first pull and it doesn't feel particularly different, just give it a little bit of time to for the ECU to adapt, and then go to some local roads where you are going to be able to tell the difference. Other than that, if there's any questions or technical support that's required after this video, you will need to contact us via email, at which point we'll quote on an hourly basis.